I'm Keziah Thorne, 52, and I spent 20 years as a high-end fashion archivist, building a legacy that I handed to my daughter on a silver platter. The rain is not a drizzle. It is a calculated assault. It beats down on the driveway of the estate in Greenwich, a sprawling Tudor-style mansion that I bought with the commissions from 3 decades of preserving history. The water is ice cold. It reaches through my vintage Chanel wool coat and clings to my skin like a shroud. I can feel the weight of the fabric pulling at my shoulders, dragging me down toward the wet earth. In front of me stands Brielle, my daughter, my only child. She isn't wearing a coat. She doesn't need one because she is standing safely under the deep shadows of the portico, dry and untouchable. Her face is a mask of high cheekboned indifference. She looks at me as if I am a stain on the white marble of the foyer behind her. She reaches down and grabs the handle of my primary Louis Vuitton trunk. This trunk holds my life. It holds the 1954 Dior sketches I saved from a basement in Paris. It holds the silk swatches from gowns worn by queens. She doesn't care, she heaves it forward. The sound of the leather hitting the wet gravel is a sickening, muffled thud. Brielle, stop, I say. My voice is thin. It is swallowed by the roar of the storm. What are you doing? It's midnight. It's pouring. She doesn't stop. She reaches for the next one. A smaller, hard-shelled case filled with my personal jewelry and my legal documents. She tosses it onto the driveway with a grunt of effort. It skids across the stones, splashing muddy water over the monogrammed canvas. I told you yesterday, Mother, she says. Her voice is clear, cutting through the rain like a razor. The Sterlings are arriving tomorrow morning. Julian's parents are staying for the entire week to finalize the wedding details. I know that, I cry out. I take a step toward her, my heels sinking into the soft, rain-soaked earth. I'm the one who hired the caterers. I'm the one who vetted the florist. I'm staying in the guest wing. I won't be in the way. Brielle laughs. It is a short, sharp sound that makes the hair on my arms stand up. She steps to the very edge of the dry stone, her designer heels inches away from the deluge. You don't get it, she says. She leans in, her eyes narrowing. Julian's father is old money. His lineage goes back to the Mayflower. They value a certain pedigree, they value a history that doesn't involve manual labor. Manual labor, I feel a hysterical bubble of laughter rising in my throat. I am a world-renowned archivist. I am an academic. I am a curator. I built this entire life for you by being the best in the world at what I do. Exactly, she sneers. You do things, you work with your hands. You talk about craft and textiles and preservation like a common seamstress. Your trade, Mother, your new money that still smells like the workroom floor. To the Sterlings, you're just a high-end servant who got lucky. The air leaves my lungs. I feel like I've been punched in the solar plexus. The rain feels heavier now, pressing down on my head, my neck, my heart. I paid for this house, Brielle, I whisper. I can barely hear myself over the thunder. I put your name on the deed as a gift because I wanted you to have security. I wanted you to have a home that no one could ever take from you. And I thank you for the gift, she says, her voice turning cold as a winter grave. But a gift belongs to the receiver. And as the owner of this property, I'm telling you that you're a liability. If Julian's mother sees you geeking out over a hemline or talking about your clients, she'll realize we aren't who I told them we are. She'll realize I'm just the daughter of a woman who cleans old clothes for a living. She reaches into her pocket and pulls out a small, black remote. Where am I supposed to go? I scream. My hands are shaking so hard I can't even pull my phone from my pocket. I have nowhere to go at this hour. Everything I own is in those trunks. Call a car, she says. Go to a hotel in the city. Just stay away from here until after the wedding, or forever. Honestly, forever would be better for my brand. She presses the button. The massive iron gates at the end of the long driveway begin to groan. They move slowly, like the jaws of a trap closing shut. I look at the house I chose for its light, for its history, for the way the sun hit the library where I taught Brielle how to read. Brielle, please, I sob, I don't care about my pride anymore. The cold is deep in my bones now. It's freezing. Just let me stay in the garage apartment. I won't come out, I promise. She doesn't even answer. She turns her back on me. I watch her silhouette through the glass of the front door. She walks into the warmth. She walks past the Ming vases I curated and the Persian rugs I spent months sourcing. She disappears into the shadows of the hallway. The heavy front door clicks shut. The deadbolt turns. The sound is final. I turn around just as the iron gates meet in the middle with a heavy metallic clang. The lock engages. I am caged out of my own life. I stand there for a long time. The rain turns my vision into a blur of gray and black. I look down at my suitcases. They look like drowned animals huddled on the gravel. I reach out and touch the leather of the largest trunk. It is soaked through. My life's work is being ruined by the minute. My heart doesn't feel like it's breaking anymore. It feels like it's hardening. The warmth of my love for her is being extinguished by the downpour, replaced by a cold, sharp sensation. It feels like my chest is filled with broken glass. I am Keziah Thorne. I have spent my life meticulously documenting the rise and fall of dynasties through the things they left behind. I know how to spot a fake from a mile away. I know how to find the hidden tear in a perfect facade. Brielle thinks she can just edit me out of her story. She thinks she can discard me like a last season silhouette. She forgot that I am the one who knows where all the seams are. She forgot that I am the one who knows exactly which thread to pull to make the entire garment fall apart. I reach down and grab the handle of the wet trunk. My knuckles are white. My jaw is set. The shivering stops. The Sterlings want pedigree. They want perfection. They want a history without a blemish. I am going to give them the truth, and I am going to make sure my daughter watches as every single thing she's lied for burns to the ground. I start walking toward the gate, dragging my heavy, sodden legacy behind me. Every step on the gravel is a promise. Every drop of rain is fuel. She wants to be a social climber? Fine, I'm about to show her how long the fall is from the top. I'm Keziah Thorne, 52, and I am the woman who curated the wardrobes of 3 first ladies before my own daughter threw me away like a thrift store scrap. The park bench is damp. It doesn't just feel wet, it feels invasive. The wood is cold and slick under my palms, the rot of the seasons seeping through the expensive fabric of my skirt. The humidity in the air is a thick, invisible wool. It clings to my skin like a second, unwanted layer. It chokes my breath. I am sitting in the dark of a public square 3 miles from the gates of my own home, listening to the distant hum of traffic. My wet Chanel coat is a leaden weight around my shoulders, smelling of damp wool and betrayal. I pull my phone from my pocket. My fingers are trembling so hard I can barely swipe the screen. The blue light hits my eyes like a physical blow, searing into my retinas in the pre-dawn gloom. I open the banking app. I tell myself there's been a mistake. I tell myself that Brielle is cruel, but she isn't a thief. I tell myself that the girl I raised on bedtime stories of Dior and Schiaparelli could not possibly be this hollow. The screen loads. The circle spins. 0. The digits stare back at me, hollow and mocking. The joint savings account, the one I kept in her name for tax purposes, or so she convinced me, is empty. $400,000, every cent of the emergency fund, every penny of the retirement I had barely begun to consider. The checking account is drained to the last cent. I refresh the page. I refresh it again until my thumb aches and the skin is raw. Nothing changes. She didn't just kick me out into the rain. She stripped me of my armor. She took the weapon of my own hard-earned security and used it to execute my future. My pulse begins to thrum in my ears. It is a steady, rhythmic beat. It is a war drum. It vibrates against my eardrums, drowning out the sound of the wind in the trees. My skin feels tight, as if my body is too small for the rage expanding inside me. I close my eyes and the memories hit me like a montage of a life I no longer recognize. I see the workroom in the late 90s. I see myself working 16-hour shifts until my eyes bled from the strain of matching microscopic silk threads under a magnifying glass. I remember the hunger. I remember the sharp, acidic gnaw in my stomach when I skipped lunch for 3 months straight so Brielle could have the private French tutor she insisted she needed to fit in at her preparatory school. I remember the day I sold my mother's Victorian emerald brooch. I can still feel the weight of it in my hand, the cold gold and the deep, grassy green of the stone. I remember the way the jeweler's loupe looked as he inspected it, and the way my heart cracked when I handed it over for a fraction of its worth. I did it to pay for Brielle's debutante ball. I did it so she could stand among the elite, draped in white silk, and feel like she was born to that world. I built the pedestal brick by brick. I used my own bones for the foundation. I used my own sweat to mortar the stones together. And now she is standing on top of it, looking down at me as if I am the dirt beneath her heels. She thinks she has ascended. She thinks she has successfully pruned the working-class branch from her family tree. The sun begins to bleed over the horizon. The sky turns a bruised, ugly purple, the color of a fresh wound. The grief that was heavy and suffocating in my chest starts to change. It doesn't dissipate. It condenses. It sharpens into a needle-thin point. It hardens into a singular, icy resolve. I am not a victim. I am an archivist. I know how to preserve things that the world wants to forget. But more importantly, I know how things decay. I know the exact chemical reaction that causes silk to shatter into dust. I know how light can fade the most vibrant dyes until they are nothing but gray shadows of what they once were. Brielle wants to be a Sterling. She wants to marry Julian and disappear into a world of old money, silent hallways, and pedigree. She thinks she has erased me. She thinks the money she stole will buy her a new past, a clean slate, and a life where her mother is nothing more than a ghost she outran. She is wrong. I didn't just give her a legacy. I gave her a facade. And I am the only person on this earth who knows where the structural cracks are hidden. I know which lie she told Julian's mother about her grandmother's lineage. I know which heirloom in her closet is a high-end replica I bought her when she was 20. I know every stitch of the character she is playing. I stand up from the bench. My legs are stiff, protesting the cold. My back aches with a dull, throbbing heat, but the trembling in my hands has stopped. My fingers are steady now. My jaw is set so tightly I can feel the muscles clicking in my temples. I look at the rising sun and I make a silent vow to the empty park. I am going to dismantle that golden pedestal. I am going to take back every brick I laid. I am going to show the Sterlings exactly what kind of pedigree they are bringing into their bloodline. Brielle wanted me gone because I was trade. She wanted me gone because I reminded her of the work, the grit, and the truth. She's about to find out that the woman who cleans the clothes is the only one who knows how to find the bloodstains. I start walking toward the city center, dragging my sodden luggage behind me. The gravel crunches under my boots, sounding like breaking bones. The hunt has begun. She wants to be a social climber? Fine. I am going to show her exactly how long the fall is from the top, and I am going to make sure she hits every single jagged edge on the way down. I'm Keziah Thorne, 52, and I am the woman who curated the wardrobes of 3 first ladies before my own daughter threw me away like a thrift store scrap. The 3 miles to the corner of 4th and Main feel like 30. My soaked boots have rubbed the skin of my heels into raw, weeping blisters. Every step is a hot spike of pain shooting up my calves. I am dragging 2 oversized leather trunks behind me, the wheels screaming against the cracked pavement of the industrial district. I look like a ghost of the woman I was yesterday. My hair is a matted nest of silver and ash. My designer coat is stained with street grime and the salt of my own tears. I reach the Heritage Trust branch just as the open sign flickers to life. It is a squat, ugly brick building that smells of stale coffee and industrial cleaner. It is a world away from the glass and steel towers where Brielle does her banking. This is where I kept the things I didn't want the world, or her, to find. I walk through the heavy glass doors. The air conditioning hits my wet skin like a sheet of ice. I am shivering so violently my teeth click together. The young teller behind the plexiglass looks at me with a mixture of pity and disgust. He sees a homeless woman in expensive rags. He doesn't see the woman who once dictated the hemlines of the nation. I need access to box 412, I say. My voice is a dry rasp. I pull the small, flat key from the hidden pocket sewn into the lining of my bra. It is cold against my thumb. It is the only thing she didn't take. The teller hesitates, his eyes scanning my disheveled state. I slide my driver's license across the counter. My hand is steady. My gaze is a frozen lake. Now, I whisper. Minutes later, I am in the bowels of the building. The vault is a silent metallic tomb. The air here is dead and heavy. The manager leads me to a private viewing room and slides the long, gray metal box onto the table. He leaves, the heavy door clicking shut behind him. I am alone. I reach for the lid. My heart is a frantic bird trapped in my ribs. I lift the metal. I expect the smell of my own past to rise up and choke me. Inside, there is no gold. There are no stacks of emergency cash. There are sheaves of vellum. There are hundreds of hand-drawn blueprints, the ink faded but the lines still sharp and lethal. These are the original technical drawings for the Thorne aesthetic. I trace the sketches of the invisible seam and the anatomical cinch. These are the proprietary construction methods that Brielle is currently debuting in her visionary collection for the Sterlings. I pull out the patent filings from 2004. My name, Keziah Thorne, is embossed at the top of every page. These documents prove that every innovation my daughter is claiming as her own genius is a direct theft of my intellectual property. She didn't just kick me out, she plagiarized my entire soul. A savage heat begins to prickle under my skin. It starts in my fingertips and rushes to my head. I feel a low, guttural vibration in my chest. It is a laugh, but it sounds like a snarl. She thinks I gave her my legacy. She thinks I handed her the keys to the kingdom out of motherly love. She forgot that I am a businesswoman first. I never signed the rights over. I never gave her permission to use these designs. She is building her empire on a foundation of stolen glass, and I am about to shatter it. I reach into my bag and pull out my phone. The screen is cracked, a spiderweb of light across the display. I scroll through my contacts until I find the name I haven't dialed in a decade. Silas Vance. Silas is a shark. He is the kind of lawyer who doesn't just win, he leaves the opposition in a state of permanent ruin. 10 years ago, I saved his career. I spent 3 weeks in a windowless room redesigning his mistress's entire public image after a scandal that should have ended him. I buried the truth in silk and pearls. He told me then that he owed me a life-changing favor. I hit the call button. The phone rings once, twice. Vance, a voice growls. It is deep, gravelly, and smells of expensive scotch and ruthlessness. Silas, I say, I stand up straight, I pull my shoulders back. I am no longer the woman on the park bench. I am the architect of the Thorne legacy. It's Keziah Thorne I'm calling in that favor. There is a long pause on the other end. I can hear the sound of a heavy pen being set down on a mahogany desk. Keziah, he says, his tone shifting from professional to predatory. I heard you retired. I heard your daughter took the reins. My daughter is a thief, Silas. She's currently standing on a stage telling the Sterlings she's the future of American fashion. I have the patent filings in front of me that prove she's nothing but a high-end copycat. I hear the sound of a match striking. Silas inhales. What do you want, Keziah? Do you want a settlement? No, I say. I look down at the blueprints. I see the Thorne aesthetic, my life's work, being used as a ladder for a girl who doesn't even know how to thread a needle. I don't want her money. I want her career. I want her reputation. I want the Sterlings to see her for exactly what she is before she walks down that aisle. I want her to watch as every single garment in her collection is seized as evidence of intellectual property theft. I continue. My voice is as cold and sharp as a tailor's shears. I want her to feel the floor drop out from under her, Silas. I want to be the one who cuts the thread. I hear Silas chuckle. It is a dry, dark sound. Where are you? He asks. A dusty bank branch on 4th, I reply. I have the originals, I have the proof, and I have the hunger. Stay put, Silas says. I'm sending a car. By this evening, Brielle won't be worried about social climbing. She'll be worried about prison. I hang up the phone. I look at my reflection in the polished metal of the safety deposit box. My eyes are no longer red from crying. They are bright with the fire of a coming storm. I am Keziah Thorne. I built this world, and I am going to be the one who burns it down. I'm Keziah Thorne, 52, and I am the woman who curated the wardrobes of 3 first ladies before my own daughter threw me away like a thrift store scrap. I count the bills onto the laminate counter of the rental office. The paper is crisp and smells of the vault. It is the last of the emergency cash I kept tucked away for a rainy day. It is pouring now. The landlord is a man with yellowed teeth and a wandering eye. He doesn't recognize me. To him, I am just another desperate woman looking for a place to hide. He hands me a rusted key attached to a plastic fob. The studio is on the 4th floor. There is no elevator. I drag my leather trunks up the narrow stairs, the wood groaning under the weight of my past. The room is 12 by 12. It smells of stale cooking grease and lemon-scented bleach. The wallpaper is peeling in the corners like sunburnt skin. I drop my bags onto the stained linoleum. The sound echoes against the thin, hollow walls. I am miles away from the penthouse, but I have never felt more present. I leave the apartment and walk toward the theater district. I find a shop that specializes in professional-grade disguises. The air inside is thick with the scent of spirit gum and hairspray. I buy a wig. It is a blunt, honey blonde bob, thick and heavy. I buy a pair of oversized, thick-rimmed tortoiseshell glasses with clear lenses. Back in the studio, I stand before the cracked bathroom mirror. I pull the wig over my silver gray hair. I slide the glasses onto the bridge of my nose. I apply a shade of lipstick I would never normally wear, a dusty, muted mauve. I look in the mirror and I don't see Keziah Thorne. I see a ghost. I see a nondescript woman of a certain age. I see a woman that society has trained itself to overlook. I see the invisible shadow that will follow Brielle to her grave. I sit on the edge of the twin bed. The springs groan and protest under my weight. I pull out my phone. My thumb hovers over the Instagram icon. My heart is a frantic bird trapped in my ribs. I click the app. The screen floods with light and artificial perfection. There she is, Brielle. The photo was posted an hour ago. She is sitting in my velvet armchair. The one I imported from Florence. The one she told me was too traditional for her taste. She is holding a crystal flute of vintage Krug. She is laughing. Her head is tilted back, exposing the long, elegant line of her throat. She looks radiant. She looks like a woman who hasn't spent a single second thinking about the mother she left shivering on a park bench. I scroll through the gallery. She's at a dinner party in my dining room. Julian Sterling is beside her. His hand is resting possessively on the small of her back. His mother, Alina, is leaning in, smiling at Brielle with a look of genuine admiration. It is the smile of a woman who believes she has found a worthy protégé. They are surrounded by the elite circle Brielle has been clawing toward for years. These are people who wouldn't have looked at her twice if I hadn't dressed her in the armor of their own class. Then I see the announcement. It is an elegant graphic, minimalist, and cold. The Thorn Heritage Collection, a new era of legacy. The caption says it all. She is hosting a gala in 3 weeks. It's a private showing at the museum. This is her coronation. This is where she officially sheds the skin of a daughter and becomes a titan. She is branding my life's work as her heritage. I click on a behind-the-scenes video she posted to her stories. The camera pans across a mood board in my old studio. I see the sketches pinned to the cork. My breath hitches. My vision blurs for a second before snapping into terrifying focus. I know those lines. I know the specific aggressive curve of that lapel. I recognize the anatomical cinch, the technique I spent 3 years perfecting to give a woman a silhouette without the agony of a corset. She is leaning over a drafting table in the video, holding a charcoal pencil like she's mid-creation. She looks like a visionary, but I see the truth. I see the exact blueprints I have stored in the metal box tucked under this narrow, sagging bed. She didn't even have the decency to change the proportions. She is using the 2004 patterns. She is using the designs I never published because I was saving them for the day she finally proved she had the heart to carry the name. A cold, sharp twitch pulls at the corner of my mouth. It is the first time I have felt my face move in a smile since the locks were changed. It is not a smile of joy. It is a predatory expression. She is walking into a cage of her own making. She thinks she is unveiling her masterpiece to the world. She thinks the Sterlings will see this collection and welcome her into their bloodline as a genius. She doesn't realize she is preparing the state's primary evidence for a massive intellectual property suit. Every stitch she shows that night will be a nail in her professional coffin. Every guest who applauds her innovation will be a witness to her theft. She is building a throne out of stolen wood, and she has no idea that I am the one who knows exactly where the rot is hidden. I lean back against the cold, damp wall of the studio. I watch the video of her laughing one more time. I memorize the spark in her eyes. I want to remember that look of triumph. I want to hold it in my mind so I can compare it to the look she'll have when I pull the thread and watch her entire world unravel in front of the very people she sold her soul to impress. Laugh while you can, Brielle. The gala is in 21 days. And I've already started sewing your shroud. I'm Keziah Thorne, 52, and I'm the woman who curated the wardrobes of 3 first ladies before my own daughter threw me away like a thrift store scrap. I stand in the center of a bustling, high-ceilinged atelier in the meatpacking district. The air is thick with the hiss of industrial steamers and the sharp, metallic tang of shears hitting cutting tables. Nobody looks at me. I am Keziah Vane today, using my maiden name and a resume that Sela's scrubbed until it looked like the unremarkable history of a lifelong garment worker. My silver hair is hidden beneath a matted, dishwater blonde wig that I've pinned flat to my skull. I've traded my tailored silk blouses for a shapeless, pilled cardigan and thick-rimmed glasses that distort the shape of my eyes. I am a ghost in the house I helped build. The floor manager, a man half my age with a headset clamped to his ear, points a meaty finger toward a station in the back. He doesn't even ask for my last name. He just sees a woman with weathered hands and a pincushion strapped to her wrist. He sees a tool. Vane, right, you're on the heritage gowns, he barks over the roar of a vacuum. The lead designer is a perfectionist. If one stitch is crooked, you're out on the sidewalk before your bag hits the floor. Move it. I nod, keeping my chin tucked into my chest. I shuffle toward the back, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. It feels like it might crack a bone. Every step is a risk. Every breath is a gamble. I reach the rack. There they are, my children. The centerpiece of the collection is a midnight blue velvet gown with a structural neckline that mimics the wings of a moth. I remember the night I sketched it. I remember the way the light hit the ripples in the fabric. Brielle has claimed it as her magnum opus. She has told the press it was inspired by her childhood dreams. It wasn't. It was inspired by the bruises I hid under my sleeves while I worked 3 jobs to pay for her private school. I sit at the heavy oak table. I pick up a needle. The weight of it is familiar, a comfort in the chaos. I begin to work on the inner lining of the hem. My hands are steady, even if my soul is screaming. Then the atmosphere in the room shifts. The temperature seems to drop 10 degrees. The frantic chatter of the other seamstresses dies down into a respectful, terrified hush. The double doors at the front of the studio swing open. I hear the click-clack of her heels first. It's a sharp, aggressive sound, stilettos on polished concrete. It sounds like a countdown. I want the lighting adjusted for the final fitting, a voice rings out. It's her. Brielle walks into the room like she owns the oxygen we're breathing. She is wearing a cream-colored power suit that I designed for her graduation. She looks impeccable. She looks powerful. She looks like a monster. As she nears my station, the scent hits me. It's cloying and sweet, peony and blush suede. It's the perfume I bought for her. I can smell the betrayal in the air. I can smell the coldness of the park bench. My stomach rolls. I feel a surge of bile in the back of my throat, but I swallow it down. I keep my head bent over the midnight velvet. I focus on the needle. Up, down, through. She stops 3 feet away from me. I can see the toes of her expensive shoes in my peripheral vision. My breath hitches. My lungs feel like they've been filled with lead. If she looks down, if she catches the shape of my profile, if she hears the way I breathe, it's over. This one, Brielle says, her voice cold and dismissive. She points a manicured finger at the gown in my lap. The tension on the left side is off. Fix it. She doesn't look at my face. She doesn't even look at my hands. To her, I am just a cog in the machine that produces her glory. I am part of the furniture. I am a nameless, faceless servant in the empire she stole from me. Yes, Miss Thorne, I whisper. I modulate my voice, making it raspy and thin. She doesn't respond. She just turns on her heel and continues her sweep of the room, barking orders at the younger girls who are staring at her with wide, worshipful eyes. They see a goddess. I see a thief. Once she is back in the glass-walled office at the front of the studio, I allow myself to exhale. My vision is blurry with unshed tears, but I don't let them fall. I have work to do. I reach into the hidden pocket of my cardigan. My fingers brush against the small, plastic baggie seals provided. Inside are 24 RFID tags, each no larger than a grain of rice. They are encased in soft, flexible silk pouches that match the midnight blue lining of the gowns perfectly. These aren't just inventory tags. Silas's tech team has spent the last 48 hours programming them. I work with the precision of a surgeon. I use a surgical-grade thread to anchor the first tag into the deep corner of the hem. It is invisible to the naked eye. It is undetectable to the touch. But when Brielle's models walk onto that runway at the museum, when they pass the high-definition smart screens that are supposed to display her inspiration mood boards, these tags will trigger a different sequence. They won't see her sketches. They will see the time-stamped, notarized patent filings from my private vault. They will see the original 2004 blueprints with my signature in the corner. They will see the side-by-side comparison of her genius and my reality. I move to the next gown. A pale gold silk. I sew a tag into the waistband. I move to the third, a structured blazer. I hide a tag inside the shoulder padding. My fingers are bleeding by the time the clock hits midnight. The tip of my index finger is a map of tiny red pinpricks. I welcome the pain. It keeps me grounded. It keeps me sharp. I look toward the glass office. Brielle is gone now, but her shadow remains. Her name is plastered on the wall in giant, backlit letters. I stand up and stretch my aching back. My joints pop. I look down at the rack of garments. They look beautiful. They look ready for a celebration. She thinks this gala is her coronation. She thinks she's about to become the queen of the industry. I touch the hem of the midnight blue gown one last time. I feel the tiny hard bump of the RFID tag under my thumb. It feels like a heartbeat. It feels like a bomb. I walk out of the studio and into the cold night air. I don't look back. The fuse is lit. The stitches are set. In 72 hours, the world will see exactly what happens when you try to bury a woman who knows how to sew her way out of a grave. I'm Keziah Thorne, 52, and I once dressed the most powerful women in the world, only for my own daughter to treat me like a stain on her reputation. I am pushing a heavy, squeaking utility cart through the plush corridors of the Metropolitan Museum's private wing. My hands, once accustomed to the delicate touch of French lace and hand-spun silk, are encased in yellow latex gloves that smell of cheap lemon bleach. I am a shadow. I am the help. I am a woman who doesn't exist to the people who walk these halls. My face is masked, my hair tucked under a nondescript hairnet, and my posture is slumped to shave 3 inches off my height. To the world, I am just a nameless janitor. To my daughter, I am dead. The VIP lounge is a sanctuary of gold leaf molding and sapphire velvet. It smells of expensive lilies and the cold, metallic scent of filtered air. I can see them through the cracked, open double doors. Brielle is sitting across from a leaner Sterling. The leaner is the matriarch of the Sterling family. She is a woman whose moral compass is as rigid as her spine. She runs the Foundations for Truth, a global charity that fights corporate corruption and advocates for transparency. She is the gatekeeper of the life Brielle wants so desperately to inhabit. If a leaner accepts her, Brielle is royalty. If a leaner rejects her, Brielle is nothing but a girl with a stolen sewing kit. I push my cart into the room. I don't look up. I keep my eyes fixed on the baseboards. I hear the sharp, rhythmic click of Brielle's heels on the marble floor. "Excuse me," Brielle snaps, her voice cutting through the quiet like a blade. "We are having a private conversation. Can this wait?" I don't speak. I simply point to a spilled glass of water near the adjacent table and offer a muffled, subservient grunt. I move toward the table next to theirs. My heart is a trapped bird, frantic and bruising itself against my ribs. I feel the sweat pooling at the small of my back. I reach into my pocket. I pull out a micro recorder no larger than a button. As I lean down to scrub the leg of the mahogany side table, my fingers find the underside of the lip. I press the adhesive. It sticks. The red light blinks once and then goes dark. It is active. I pull back, dragging my mop across the floor in slow, agonizing circles. I retreat to the hallway and lean against the cool stone wall, out of sight but within range. I pop a wireless earpiece into my ear and tuck it beneath my hairnet. Static crackles for a second, then her voice fills my head. I apologize for the interruption, Alina, Brielle says. Her tone is pure honey. It is the voice she used to use when she wanted me to read her a bedtime story. The staff here is so pervasive. It's quite all right, dear. Alina's voice is a low, regal hum. I was asking about your mother. You mentioned she passed away recently. It must be so difficult to launch this collection while grieving. I close my eyes. I feel the coldness of the hallway floor beneath my feet. I am standing right here, Brielle. I am breathing. It has been a trial, Brielle sighs. I can almost picture the practiced tilt of her head, the fake shimmer of a tear. But my mother was a troubled woman. She had complications. In the end, I had to dispose of the baggage she left behind to protect the integrity of the Thorn name. She didn't have the vision for what this brand could become. She was an anchor, Alina. I had to cut the line to sail. The word baggage hits me like a physical blow. It knocks the wind out of my lungs. I grip the handle of my mop so hard the wood groans. I am the woman who taught her how to hold a needle. I am the woman who stayed up until dawn for 20 years to ensure she never knew a day of want. Honesty is a rare commodity in this industry, Alina says, her voice warming. I value that. My foundation is built on the idea that wealth is a responsibility, not a shield. We fight the people who hide behind shell companies and tax havens. We believe in purity. I hear the clink of a crystal glass. Brielle laughs. It is a sharp, jagged sound. Then we are perfectly aligned, Brielle says. I can hear the smirk in her voice. That's why I've been so careful with the heritage line. Between us, Alina, the profits from this launch are already being diverted. I've structured the company through a series of offshore holdings in the Caymans. By the time the IRS even looks at the books, the money will be laundered into the Sterling Thorn Trust. Why give the government 40% when I can use it to build our legacy? It's just smart business. It's the way the world actually works, regardless of what the public sees on the brochures. My blood turns to ice. She isn't just a thief, she is a criminal. She is bragging about tax evasion and money laundering to the woman whose entire life's work is dedicated to destroying people exactly like that. Brielle is so arrogant, so convinced of her own charm, that she thinks she has already won Alina over. She thinks she is sharing a secret between equals. She has no idea that Alina Sterling's father was ruined by a man who used those exact same words. My hand is shaking as I reach into my pocket and feel the cold screen of my phone. I look at the recording app. The waveform is dancing, capturing every syllable of her confession. Every word is a nail. Every sentence is a shovel full of dirt on the grave she is digging for herself. You're a very clever girl, Brielle, Alina says. Her voice has gone flat. Cold. But Brielle is too blinded by her own reflection to notice the change in the weather. I learn from the best, Brielle replies. I hit the save button. I watch the file upload to the cloud. I watch the progress bar reach 100%. My stomach churns with a mixture of grief and a dark, terrifying satisfaction. The girl I raised is gone. In her place is a monster I helped create by loving her too much to ever say no. I pull the earpiece out. I straighten my back. I am no longer a janitor. I am no longer a ghost. I am the storm that is about to break. I push my cart away from the VIP lounge, the squeak of the wheels sounding like a funeral march. The gala begins in 2 hours. The world is about to meet the real Brielle Thorne, and I am the one who will make sure they never forget her. I'm Keziah Thorne, 52, and I built a multi-million-dollar fashion empire with nothing but a stolen sewing machine and a dream, only to have my own daughter treat me like a stain she needed to bleach out of her life. The Great Hall of the Metropolitan Museum is a cavern of gold leaf and predatory ambition. The air is thick with the cloying scent of 5,000 lilies and the sharp, metallic tang of expensive champagne. I am standing in the shadows of a fluted marble column, my body encased in a stiff polyester catering waistcoat that smells of industrial detergent. The white cotton gloves hide the calluses on my fingertips. The black face mask hides the face that used to be on the cover of every trade magazine in the city. To the elite gathered here, I am just a pair of hands. I am a ghost in a service uniform. I am exactly where I need to be. I watch Brielle. She is the sun at the center of this solar system. She is wearing the midnight blue silk gown I spent 80 hours draping and hand-stitching in a windowless basement. It clings to her like a second skin. It moves like water. She looks like a masterpiece, but I know every hidden knot in the thread. I know the structural flaws she doesn't think exist. She is holding a crystal flute, her head tilted back in a practiced melodic laugh as she speaks to a group of investors. She looks triumphant. She looks like she has already won. My heart is thudding against my ribs like a trapped bird. It's a rhythmic, bruising ache. My palms are slick inside my gloves. I shift the weight of my silver tray, the champagne glasses rattling ever so slightly. No one notices. No one ever looks at the help. Eleanor Sterling is standing 3 feet away from me. She is draped in silver lame, her eyes narrowed as she watches my daughter. Eleanor is the moral compass of this industry. She is the woman Brielle thinks she has fooled with her lies about offshore accounts and disposable baggage. I see the way Eleanor's jaw is set. She is waiting. A chime rings out, clear and sharp, cutting through the low roar of 500 voices. The lights begin to dim. A hush falls over the room, the kind of silence that precedes an execution. Brielle glides toward the stage. She moves with a confidence that makes my stomach churn. She steps behind the mahogany podium, her face projected onto the massive, high-definition screens that flank the stage. "Welcome," she says. Her voice is amplified, honeyed, and rich. It's the voice of a woman who believes she is untouchable. "Tonight is about more than just a collection," Brielle continues, her eyes shining with fake humility. "It's about the journey. It's about the legacy of the Thorne name and the tireless creative vision that brought these garments to life. Before we begin the runway, I want to share a glimpse into my soul. I want you to see the heart of the heritage line." She gestures to the screens. The audience waits. I reach into the deep pocket of my catering apron. My fingers find the small, cold plastic of the remote transmitter I built from a modified signal jammer. My thumb rests on the single red button. This is the moment. This is the end of the girl I raised and the birth of the justice I deserve. I press it. I feel a tiny mechanical click beneath my thumb. It is the most satisfying sound I have ever heard. The screens don't play the polished, soft focus montage of Brielle sketching in a sunlit loft. They flicker once, a jagged bolt of digital static, and then they explode with the harsh, blue-white light of scanned legal documents. The room gasps. It is a collective, sharp intake of breath that sounds like a vacuum. The first image is my 2004 patent filing for the thorn stitch. My signature is at the bottom, bold and undeniable, dated 2 decades ago. The screen scrolls. Next are the original blueprints for the very gown Brielle is wearing, hand-drawn on yellowed vellum with my initials in the corner. "What is this?" Brielle stammers. Her voice is no longer honey. It is thin. It is brittle. She turns to the tech booth, her face contorting in a mask of rage. "Turn it off, someone turn it off." But the server is locked. My override is absolute. Then the audio kicks in. It isn't the swelling orchestral music she commissioned. It is the raw, unedited recording from the VIP lounge 2 hours ago. Her voice fills the great hall, booming from the state-of-the-art speakers. I had to dispose of the baggage she left behind. I've structured the company through a series of offshore holdings, laundering into the Sterling Thorn Trust. The words hang in the air like poison gas. I watch the blood drain from Brielle's face. In the harsh glow of the screens, her tan turns to a sickly, translucent gray. She looks small. She looks like a child caught with her hand in a jar of glass shards. The silence that follows the recording is deafening. It is a physical weight. Elinor Sterling steps forward, her silver gown shimmering like a blade. She doesn't look at the screen, she looks directly at Brielle. The look of disgust on Elinor's face is so pure, so absolute, that I feel a chill run down my spine. I stand perfectly still in the shadows. I don't move, I don't breathe. I watch my daughter's empire crumble in real time. I watch the investors turn their backs. I watch the photographers lower their cameras as if she has suddenly become invisible. Brielle's eyes scan the crowd, frantic and wild. For a split second, her gaze lands on the catering staff. She looks right at me. She doesn't recognize me behind the mask and the uniform, but she sees the way I am standing. She sees the stillness of a woman who is no longer afraid. The champagne tray is heavy in my hands, but I don't let it shake. I am the architect of this wreckage. I am the woman who taught her how to sew, and tonight I am the woman who ripped the seams out of her life. The gala is over. The career is dead. And I am finally, truly standing in the light. I'm Keziah Thorne, 52, and I am the master tailor who spent 3 decades building a fashion dynasty, only to have my own daughter discard me like a piece of waste fabric. The air in the Great Hall of the Metropolitan Museum is thick with the scent of 5,000 lilies and the metallic tang of expensive champagne. I am standing in the deep shadows near the service entrance. My body is encased in a stiff, polyester catering waistcoat that smells of industrial detergent. The white cotton gloves hide the calluses on my fingertips. The black face mask hides the face that used to be on the cover of every trade magazine in the city. To the elite gathered here, I am just a pair of hands. I am a ghost in a service uniform. I am exactly where I need to be. I watch Brielle. She is the sun at the center of this solar system. She is wearing the midnight blue silk gown I spent 80 hours draping and hand-stitching in a windowless basement. It clings to her like a second skin. She looks like a masterpiece, but I know every hidden knot in the thread. She is holding a crystal flute, her head tilted back in a practiced melodic laugh. She looks triumphant. She thinks she has already won. My heart is thudding against my ribs like a trapped bird. It's a rhythmic, bruising ache. My palms are slick inside my gloves. I shift the weight of my silver tray, the empty glasses rattling ever so slightly. No one notices. No one ever looks at the help. Elinor Sterling is standing 3 feet away from me. She is draped in silver lame, her eyes narrowed as she watches my daughter. Elinor is the moral compass of this industry. She is the woman Brielle thinks she has fooled with her lies about offshore accounts. I see the way Aliner's jaw is set. She is waiting. A chime rings out, clear and sharp, cutting through the low roar of 500 voices. The lights begin to dim. A hush falls over the room, the kind of silence that precedes an execution. Brielle glides toward the stage. She moves with a confidence that makes my stomach churn. She steps behind the mahogany podium, her face projected onto the massive, high-definition screens that flank the stage. "Welcome," she says, her voice is honeyed and rich. "Tonight is about the legacy of the Thorne name. I want to share the heart of the heritage line." She gestures to the screens. The audience waits. I reach into the deep pocket of my catering apron. My fingers find the small, cold plastic of the remote transmitter I built. My thumb rests on the single red button. This is the moment. This is the end of the girl I raised and the birth of the justice I deserve. I press it. I feel a tiny mechanical click beneath my thumb. The giant screens don't show her sketches. They show the legal patents with my signature, dated 10 years ago. The harsh, white glare of the documents fills the room, blinding in its intensity. My name, Keziah Thorne, is written in bold, undeniable ink at the bottom of every design. The dates prove that every original concept she claims to have created was mine before she even knew how to thread a needle. The room gasps. It is a collective, sharp intake of breath that sounds like a vacuum. Brielle freezes. Her mouth hangs open, a small O of sudden, piercing terror. Then the audio cuts in. It isn't the swelling orchestral music she commissioned. It is her own voice, loud and clear, echoing off the vaulted marble ceilings. The recording from the VIP lounge plays at full volume. I had to dispose of the baggage she left behind. Her voice sneers through the state-of-the-art speakers. I've structured the company through offshore holdings, laundering into the Sterling Thorne Trust. Why give the government 40% when I can use it to build our legacy? She is mocking the very people in the room. She is boasting about her financial fraud to the woman whose name she just dragged into a felony. The silence that follows is deafening. It is a physical weight, heavy and suffocating. The elite of New York are frozen in place, their expressions shifting from confusion to cold, hard realization. Then the silence is broken. A sharp, crystalline crack echoes through the hall. I see the movement near the front row. Her fiancé's mother has dropped her champagne flute. The glass shatters into 1,000 tiny stars against the marble floor. The liquid splashes like a stain across the hem of her dress. No one moves to help her. No one moves at all. I watch the color drain from Brielle's face until she looks like a ghost in a stolen dress. In the harsh, blue-white light of the screens, her skin looks translucent and sickly. Her eyes are wide and frantic, darting around the room, looking for an exit that doesn't exist. She looks at the cameras, but the flashes aren't admiring anymore. They are predatory. She looks toward the catering staff for a split second. She doesn't recognize me behind the mask, but she sees my eyes. She sees the stillness of a woman who is no longer afraid to burn the house down. I feel a cold, sharp satisfaction bloom in my chest. It tastes like iron. It feels like breathing for the first time in months. The champagne tray is heavy in my hands, but I don't let it shake. I am the architect of this wreckage. I am the woman who taught her how to sew, and tonight I am the woman who ripped the seams out of her life. The gala is over. The career is dead. And I am finally, truly standing in the light. I'm Keziah Thorne, 52, and I am the master tailor who spent 3 decades building a fashion dynasty only to have my own daughter discard me like a piece of waste fabric. The Great Hall is a vacuum of shocked silence. I can hear the hum of the cooling fans and the projectors. I can hear the frantic, wet sound of Brielle's breathing through the microphone she forgot to turn off. The image of my signature on the screen is 20 feet tall. It looms over her like a headstone. I set the silver tray down on a linen-covered table with a deliberate metallic thud. I don't need the disguise anymore. I reach up and peel the heavy, itchy black mask from my face. I grab the edge of the stiff, synthetic wig and pull it back. My own hair, silvered at the temples and sharp as a razor, falls free. I step out from the shadow of the service pillar. I walk into the center of the aisle, right between the rows of the most powerful people in New York. The movement draws her eyes. Brielle's gaze snaps to mine. The recognition is instantaneous. I see the moment her soul leaves her body. Her skin goes from pale to a translucent, sickly green. Her hand flies to her throat, clutching the pearls I bought her for her 21st birthday. She looks at me, and for the first time in 3 years, she really sees me. She doesn't see the baggage. She doesn't see the woman she threw onto the sidewalk in the rain. She sees the architect of her extinction. A high, thin sound escapes her throat. It isn't a word, it's a whimper of pure, unadulterated terror. Behind her, the heavy oak doors of the museum entrance swing open. The sound echoes like a gunshot. 12 men and women in dark windbreakers stride into the light. The yellow letters on their backs scream at the room, FBI. Behind them are the blue uniforms of the NYPD. They aren't here for the hors d'oeuvres. They move with a terrifying, mechanical precision toward the stage. Brielle Thorne, the lead agent, calls out. His voice is a hammer. Brielle tries to back away, but she trips on the hem of the midnight blue gown. The dress I made, the dress that is now a trap. She falls hard against the mahogany podium. The microphone screeches. "What is this?" she gasps. Her voice is a jagged shard of glass. "You are under arrest for felony tax evasion and grand larceny," the agent says. The words are flat, they are final. "I sent the tip 3 days ago. I sent the offshore account numbers. I sent the laundered wire transfers. I provided the roadmap to her own prison cell." The crowd erupts. The silence is replaced by a roar of outrage. "My money!" A billionaire in the front row screams. "You stole from the trust!" Another bellows. The investors are standing up, their faces contorted with greed and fury. They aren't her friends anymore. They are a pack of wolves. I watch Julian, her fiancé, the man who was supposed to seal her social ascent. He stands up slowly. He doesn't look at the police. He looks at the screen showing her fraud. Then he looks at her, shivering on the floor of the stage. He doesn't offer a hand. He doesn't say a word of comfort. He takes the velvet box from his pocket and sets it on his chair. He turns his back on her. He walks toward the exit without a single backward glance. The sound of his polished shoes on the marble is rhythmic. It is the sound of her future walking out the door. Brielle sees him leave. She reaches out a hand, her fingers trembling. "Julian!" she shrieks. The scream is raw. It tears through the room, desperate and ugly. He doesn't even flinch. The lead agent reaches her. He pulls her up by her arm. The silk of the gown bunches and wrinkles under his grip. I watch the silver handcuffs come out. The light catches the polished steel. Click, click. The sound is small, but to me it is louder than a symphony. It is the sound of the seams finally bursting. The police begin to lead her down the stairs. The cameras are everywhere now. The flashes are a strobe light of judgment. They aren't taking photos of a fashion icon. They are taking photos of a criminal. As they lead her past me, the agents have to slow down to navigate the crowd. Brielle is inches away. She smells like expensive perfume and cold sweat. She stops. She looks me dead in the eye. Her face is a mask of ruin. Mascara streaks her cheeks like black tears. "Why?" she whispers. The word is a thread barely holding on. I lean in. I want her to feel the warmth of my breath. I want her to see the lack of pity in my heart. You told me I was the past, Brielle, I say. My voice is steady. It is the voice of a woman who has found her way home. I just wanted to make sure you didn't have a future. Her eyes widen. The terror turns into a hollow, empty void. The agents pull her forward. She stumbles. The crowd parts for her like she is a leper. I stand in the center of the great hall. I watch them lead her out into the cold New York night. I watch the empire I built crumble into a pile of blue silk and broken glass. I feel the weight of the last 3 years lift off my shoulders. I am Keziah Thorne. I am a mother. I am a creator. And tonight, I am the storm that cleared the air. The lights in the hall begin to flicker. The guests are fleeing. The party is dead. I pick up a single, full glass of champagne from a passing tray. I raise it to the empty stage. The bubbles tickle my throat. It is the most delicious thing I have ever tasted. I'm Keziah Thorne, 52, and I am the master tailor who spent 3 decades building a fashion dynasty, only to have my own daughter discard me like a piece of waste fabric. The heavy brass doors of the Metropolitan Museum of Art swing shut behind me. The sound is a final, heavy punctuation mark on the chaos I left inside. I descend the stone steps of the museum. The night air hits my face like a cold, wet sheet. It is sharp. It is bracing. It tastes like ozone and the coming rain. I stop at the bottom of the stairs. I breathe in. I breathe out. The air doesn't feel like it's being rationed anymore. Across the street, the red and blue lights of the police cruisers strobe against the dark canopy of Central Park. The sirens are a distant, fading scream. I don't turn around to see the flashbulbs. I don't look back to see the agents guiding Brielle into the back of a sedan. The image of her in those steel handcuffs is already burned into the back of my eyelids. It is a masterpiece of my own making. I feel a strange, hollow lightness in my chest. The weight of the last 3 years has simply evaporated. I am no longer the woman sleeping on a moth-eaten mattress in a studio apartment. I am no longer the baggage to be disposed of. I am Keziah Thorne. 2 weeks later, I stand in front of the massive oak doors of my mansion. The morning sun is pale and weak. It glints off the fresh brass of the new locks. I pull a heavy silver key from my pocket. The metal is cold against my palm. I slide it into the keyhole. The resistance is firm. I turn it. Click. The sound is small, but it echoes through my bones. I push the doors open. The foyer is silent. It smells of beeswax, expensive lilies, and the faint, lingering scent of Brielle's perfume. I walk across the marble floor. The click of my heels is the only sound in the house. I look at the walls. She had replaced my oil paintings with modern, soulless abstracts. She had replaced the warmth of my life with the cold aesthetics of a social climber. I run my finger along the mahogany banister. A thin layer of dust has settled there. The staff fled the moment the FBI started freezing the accounts. I am alone in my kingdom again, but the silence doesn't feel like a vacuum. It feels like a clean slate. I walk into my study. On the desk lies a stack of legal documents. The ink is dry. The signatures are final. The Thorne Sterling brand is no longer an offshore shell. The sterling has been legally excised like a tumor. It is Thorne fashion once again, and I am the sole owner. I sit in my high-backed leather chair. The springs creak a familiar greeting. I reach for the remote and turn on the wall-mounted television. I don't have to search for the news. Her face is everywhere. The fall of the fashion phoenix, the headlines scream. The footage shows Brielle leaving the courthouse. She is wearing a gray sweatshirt. Her hair is greasy and matted. She looks small. She looks broken. The cameras are relentless. The reporters shout questions about the millions she laundered. They ask about the mother she claimed was dead. She doesn't answer. She looks into the lens for a split second. Her eyes are dead. The light is gone. The world she traded her soul for has turned its back on her. The socialites she courted have scrubbed her from their contact lists. The fiancé she lied to has already been photographed with a new debutante. She is facing 10 years in a federal facility. She is facing a lifetime of being a punchline. I press the power button. The screen goes black. I move to the library. The walls are lined with the books that taught me how to dream. The fireplace is cold, but the room is bathed in the golden light of the late afternoon. I go to the sideboard and pick up a bottle of 1982 Chateau Margaux. I remember buying this bottle the year I made my first million. I had saved it for a special occasion. I thought that occasion would be her wedding. I realize now that this is much better. I pull the cork. The soft pop is a celebration. I pour a glass. The wine is the color of a deep, dark garnet. I walk to the window and look out over the manicured lawn. I take a sip. The flavor is complex oak, dark fruit, and the sharp tang of age. It is delicious. I think about the night she kicked me out. I remember the rain soaking through my thin coat. I remember the way she looked at me like I was a stain on her perfect life. She thought she had stripped me of everything. She thought she had stolen the empire I built with my own blood and sweat. She was wrong. I realize now that I gave her the keys, the clothes, and the crown. I gave her the fame and the fortune. I gave her the world on a silver platter, but I kept the one thing she was too arrogant to realize she needed. I kept the power to take it all back. I am the master tailor. I am the one who knows where the seams are hidden. I am the one who knows exactly which thread to pull to make the whole garment unravel. I raise my glass to my reflection in the window. I don't see an old woman. I don't see a victim. I see a woman who has finally finished her finest work. The revenge is complete. The house is quiet, and for the first time in my life, I am perfectly at peace.